Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to General Hospital latest episode. Stories don't come much more timely than the one in which Port Charles, like huge swaths of the United States, was hit by a blizzard. But one thing viewers weren't thrilled with was the snow job General Hospital tried to pull where Windermere Castle is concerned. In the episode airing Tuesday, January 27th, recapped here, there was plenty of action developing. Tracy plotted with Emma and Gio, Sonny got new intel regarding the attempts on his life, and Charlotte ditched her would-be guardians. But it was one particular scene in the show's closing moment which got folks talking. When Joss picked up a pair of binoculars to look across the water at Spoon Island, she saw Windermere, which looked somewhat different than the Gothic mansion we've known and loved for years. To be clear, it's not only the inside of the castle we've seen. Back in 2010, Windermere was featured in the opening credits, as depicted below. The estate has a storied history in Port Charles, long home to the Cassadine clan. Ironically, it was also home to the supposedly late Faison, who may or may not currently be haunting Anna. But the version fans saw in today's episode was distinctly different. In fact, as Andrew Altenberg said, perfectly mimicking the voiceover which accompanies a new actor taking over a role, the role of Windermere will now be played by the set of a Wes Anderson movie. For those not in on the joke, this is the new version of Windermere. What fans were looking at wasn't just a slightly tweaked exterior or a lighting change caused by the storm. The Windermere Castle, visible through Jocelyn's binoculars, felt like an entirely different location altogether, almost as if Port Charles itself had quietly swapped realities while everyone was distracted by the blizzard. The familiar, dark, foreboding Gothic silhouette that once loomed over Spoon Island was gone. In its place stood something brighter, cleaner, almost whimsical in tone, a version of Windermere that looked more like a carefully curated art piece than the ancestral home of one of daytime television's most dangerous families. Longtime viewers immediately took to social media, posting side-by-side screenshots of the old castle and the new one, questioning whether this was an intentional redesign or an accidental continuity slip. Some joked that the Cassadines had finally hired an interior decorator with a fondness for symmetry and pastel tones, while others were less amused, calling it a total rewrite of history and accusing the show of erasing decades of visual storytelling in a single shot. The timing, of course, made everything feel even stranger. With Port Charles buried under snow, power flickering, and tensions running high across town, the reveal of a dramatically altered Windermere felt symbolic, whether the writers intended it or not. For years, the castle has represented secrecy, danger, and old-world menace. It's where countless schemes were hatched, where lives were threatened, and where the Cassadine legacy cast its longest shadow. To suddenly see it transformed into something almost storybook-like left fans wondering what exactly the show was trying to say. Was this simply a budgetary decision, a new exterior shot chosen for convenience or availability? Or was it a subtle narrative signal that the Cassadine era as viewers knew it was officially over, replaced by something new, something unfamiliar, and possibly even more unsettling in its own way? Adding fuel to the fire was the fact that the reveal came in the episode's closing moments, a deliberate choice that ensured viewers would be left buzzing long after the credits rolled. The camera lingered just long enough for the audience to register that something was off, but not long enough to offer any explanation. No dialogue acknowledged the change. No character reacted with confusion or surprise. The show simply presented the new Windermere as if it had always looked that way, daring viewers to either accept it or spiral into speculation. And speculate they did. Within minutes of the episode airing, fan forums lit up with theories. Some suggested the binocular view could be misleading, distorted by distance, snow, or even Jocelyn's emotional state. Others floated the idea that the castle had been renovated off-screen, perhaps sold or repurposed in a way yet to be revealed. A more conspiratorial corner of the fandom wondered if this visual shift was tied to the ongoing mystery surrounding Anna and the lingering question of whether Faison is truly dead or merely playing another long game from the shadows. After all, Windermere has never just been a building. It's a character in its own right, a silent witness to betrayal, obsession, and power struggles that have shaped Port Charles for generations. Changing its appearance without explanation feels almost like recasting a major role without announcing it. The show has done this before, of course. Soap operas by nature evolve. Sets change, locations are reimagined, but Windermere holds a special place in the General Hospital universe. Its dark halls and imposing presence have been burned into the collective memory of viewers who have followed the Cassadine saga for decades. Any alteration, no matter how small, was bound to draw scrutiny. What makes this moment particularly fascinating is how it intersects with the larger themes currently playing out on the canvas. Port Charles is in a state of upheaval. Alliances are shifting, long-held secrets are threatening to surface. Sonny is grappling with new information about the attempts on his life, while younger characters like Jocelyn find themselves pulled deeper into a world of danger and moral gray areas. Against that backdrop, a transformed Windermere almost feels like a visual metaphor for the idea that nothing is as it once was. Even Tracy's scheming, which unfolded earlier in the episode, takes on a different tone when viewed through this lens. The old guard is still pulling strings, but the world they once dominated is changing around them. Emma and Gio may be pawns for now, but the future of Port Charles belongs to a new generation, one that doesn't necessarily revere the old symbols of power the way their predecessors did. Then there's Charlotte's decision to ditch her would-be guardians, a move that underscores the growing theme of independence and rebellion among the younger characters. Her choice mirrors, in a way, the show's apparent willingness to break from tradition, even if that means unsettling longtime fans. Of course, not everyone sees the new Windermere as a problem. Some viewers welcomed the change, arguing that the castle had begun to feel outdated, visually disconnected from the modern tone the show has been cultivating. To them, the brighter, cleaner aesthetic suggests a fresh chapter, one that could open the door to new stories rather than recycling old Cassadine tropes. Still, the question remains, will the show address this change on screen, or will it quietly move forward as if nothing happened? Historically, General Hospital has taken both approaches. Sometimes set changes are woven into the narrative, acknowledged and explained through dialogue or plot. Other times they're simply accepted as part of the soap's evolving reality. The silence surrounding Windermere so far suggests the latter, but fans are hoping the writers recognize just how significant this location is to the show's identity. There's also the possibility that this was a one-off visual, a placeholder shot used for dramatic effect during the Blizzard storyline. If future episodes revert to the classic look of Windermere, this moment may become a curious footnote rather than a turning point. But if the new version sticks, viewers will be watching closely to see how it's integrated into upcoming stories. One thing is certain, this brief, wordless scene accomplished something many episodes struggle to do. It got people talking. In an era where attention is fragmented and audiences are quick to tune out, sparking this level of discussion over a single shot is no small feat. Whether fans loved it, hated it, or simply felt confused by it, the new look of Windermere reminded everyone just how deeply invested they are in the world of Port Charles. It proved that even after decades on the air, General Hospital still has the power to surprise, provoke, and divide its audience. As the blizzard begins to thaw and the fallout from this week's revelations continues to unfold, viewers will be watching closely, not just for answers about Sonny's enemies or Charlotte's future, but for another glimpse across the water at Spoon Island. Because now, every return to Windermere carries an unspoken question. Is this the castle we remember, or a sign that the past has truly been left behind? And in Port Charles, when the past refuses to stay buried, it's only a matter of time before the truth comes crashing through the gates.
And that is exactly why this single visual change has the potential to ripple through multiple storylines moving forward. Because in Port Charles, nothing exists in isolation. Not a glance through binoculars, not a snowstorm, and certainly not Windermere Castle. Every detail has a way of connecting back to something bigger, darker, and far more personal. As the Blizzard storyline continues to unfold, the town itself feels trapped, cut off from the outside world, forcing characters to confront truths they've been avoiding. This isolation mirrors what Windermere has always symbolized: separation, power, and secrecy. Yet now, with its softened, almost surreal new appearance, the question becomes whether the Cassadine stronghold still holds the same psychological weight it once did. For years, fear followed that castle. Its image alone was enough to make characters uneasy. You didn't need dialogue to understand that stepping onto Spoon Island meant stepping into danger. If the show is indeed redefining Windermere visually, it may also be redefining how danger itself is portrayed. Less overtly gothic, more subtle, more deceptive. That idea becomes especially intriguing when you consider Anna's ongoing storyline. The lingering suggestion that Faison may still be haunting her life, whether literally or psychologically, adds another layer to the castle's transformation. A brighter exterior doesn't mean the darkness is gone. In fact, it may suggest the opposite, that the threat is no longer obvious, that it blends in, hides in plain sight, and waits for the perfect moment to strike. Fans who joked about the castle looking like a Wes Anderson set may not be entirely off the mark in one sense. There's something unsettling about symmetry and beauty when you know what lurks beneath it. A perfectly framed image can feel more disturbing than a shadowy one when you realize it's masking chaos underneath. That has always been at the heart of the Cassadine legacy. Control on the surface, madness below. Meanwhile, back in Port Charles proper, Sonny's storyline continues to gain momentum. The new intel about the attempts on his life suggests a threat that is calculated, patient, and deeply informed, much like the Cassadines themselves. While Sonny and Spoon Island have traditionally existed on opposite ends of the power spectrum in town, the visual shift at Windermere raises the possibility that these worlds may be inching closer together again. It's also impossible to ignore the significance of Jocelyn being the one to spot the change. She represents the next generation, the bridge between legacy characters and the future of the show. Her perspective is different. She didn't grow up with the same history, the same reverence, or the same fear of Windermere. To her, it's just something she sees across the water, and that alone may say everything. Perhaps the show is subtly telling us that the myths of the past no longer hold the same power, that the younger generation sees the world differently, even when the danger remains just as real. Or perhaps Joss's calm observation is the calm before the storm, a quiet moment before she too is pulled into the Cassadine web. Charlotte's decision to walk away from her guardians fits neatly into this larger theme. The old rules aren't working anymore. Authority figures are losing control, and young characters are making choices that feel impulsive, but are driven by a deeper need for autonomy. In that context, a transformed Windermere doesn't feel random at all. It feels intentional. Of course, General Hospital has a long history of playing the long game. What looks like a simple production change today could become a major plot point weeks or even months down the line. A reveal delayed, a secret waiting to surface, a return no one saw coming. That's why fans are watching so closely now, not just for dialogue clues or character reactions, but for visual consistency, for confirmation, for another shot of Spoon Island that either reinforces this new look or quietly walks it back. Either choice will speak volumes. If the new Windermere remains, it will mark a clear shift in how the show views its own history. Not erased, but reframed. And if it doesn't, this moment will live on as one of those strange blink-and-you-miss-it General Hospital mysteries that fans debate for years. Either way, the Blizzard episode succeeded in doing what daytime drama does best when it's at its strongest. It reminded viewers that even after decades on the air, this show can still surprise them in ways they never expected. Because sometimes the most shocking twist isn't a gunshot, a betrayal, or a return from the dead. Sometimes it's simply looking across the water and realizing that the world you thought you knew no longer looks the same. And in Port Charles, when appearances change without warning, it usually means the real storm is still ahead.